Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of Center Stage. I'm Kheri Hines, your host. We typically air every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. But tonight, Mr. Lindsey Williams is back with us. And for this show, we couldn't wait until Friday night. Back in the day, there was a commercial that said, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. Well, Lindsey Williams is the new E.F. Hutton, and when he speaks, people listen. Tonight, he warns us of a looming financial Armageddon, a total collapse of the world's currencies. If you have been watching the news, you see Cyprus's two largest banks collapsed last month, and Mr. Williams says the elitists are planning something similar for the world's currencies. Get your pens and paper ready, because Mr. Williams promises to give us the warning signs. But before we begin, we want to remind you that the views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect that of Center Stage, the host, or our advertisers. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Lindsey Williams. Good evening, Mr. Williams.
For allowing me. Good evening, and thank you so much for allowing me to be with you tonight. Now, do I understand that you normally don't air on Wednesday night?
Oh, on Tuesday night.
I'm sorry.
No, we don't. We typically air on Friday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. But tonight, we wanted to bring you up early, and we're going to play it back also on a Friday night because we wanted to get this information out as soon as we possibly could.
Oh, I feel honored. For goodness sakes, I didn't realize you'd gone to so much trouble for this broadcast. And then you will re-air it at your regular time on Friday night.
Yes, we will. Yes, we absolutely will. And Mr. Williams, for those not familiar with you and your record of predicting events, please tell our audience a little bit about you and your history.
Well, Kheri, I think it'd be good for you to tell them some of the things that the elite have told me that over the years have happened exactly like they said. But, yes, let me give a brief background, and then I'll just kind of let you back it up with the knowledge that you know about how the predictions have come true, not because of that I say them. Okay. And definitely not because I'm a prophet. I'm not. Okay. But merely because of where the information comes from. And it came by the providence of God many years ago. I had been the pastor of a church in Hollywood, Florida for 12 years, went to Alaska as a missionary, and they were just beginning the construction of the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. I was actually invited by the 9 major oil companies that built that pipeline to be the chaplain on the pipeline and also to the, what I like to call elite, the top oil company officials. It changed my life because for 3 years' time, I literally lived with the people that you hear about but very seldom ever get to know. That's the super rich, the top oil company officials of the world, the people that you would know about in the IMF and the World Bank and so on. And they, after a few months, I should say, they found out that my work on the pipeline, because of helping so many of the pipeliners, they weren't having to pay me anything, my religious denomination was. They said, Chaplain, you're saving us so much money, we'd like to offer you executive status because we aren't having to pay you anything. Make life a little easier for you up here. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, stay in executive dorms at Arco Base when you're at Prudhoe Bay and sit in on our board meetings in an advisory capacity. If anyone ever doubted that there is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world, please don't ever doubt it again. I lived with them. I literally heard them talking about controlling the world, manipulating currencies, telling the president what to do, talking about what bills they were going to pass through Congress and how they would pay the congressman off. All of this is a part of a very elite group. I like to call them the elite, who literally control the world. Well, that was 35 years ago, and I've never been the same person since because I have realized the truth about why our lives are the way they are and how much they are affected by this group of people. Well, over these 35 years, there were a few of those people that I made very personal friends with. And because of it, I've kept in touch with them. Some of them, even today, some of them have already died and passed away. Others are still living. And when they decide something behind closed doors, they oftentimes would come to me and say, Chaplain, this is going to happen next month. This is going to happen 6 months from now, a year from now. And I dared over these years to tell the world about it, to do DVDs, to write books. I've authored 6 books talking about the elite, what their mindset is, how they think, why they do what they do. My first book was The Energy Non-Crisis. And today, these people are in their 70s and 80s. They're retired, but they still know everything that's going on behind closed doors. And whenever I talk to one, oftentimes they'll give me things that I feel the world needs to know. So I called Kheri the other day, and I said, Kheri, I was just on the phone the other day with one of my elite friends, and he told me some things that was so necessary for people to know, because it's going to determine the welfare of your dinner table, your household, and could determine literally your survival. And so I said, I'd like to talk with your audience and tell them what I've just heard. So tonight, as Kheri has suggested, please have a pencil and paper handy, because some of the things you're going to hear you can put down beside your calendar, watch them take place, and whenever you do, then don't say that Kheri Hines had on center stage tonight a prophet, because I'm not. It's just that these people told me what their plans are, and I'm going to tell you what their plans are. In fact, I'm going to tell you where you can go in the course of the program tonight. I'm actually going to tell you where you can go on the web to listen to their buzzwords. Now, this is very unusual, but sometimes they give me things that I can actually tell you where to go to look for them. Whether you would have ever looked there or not is very questionable, or whether you would even know how to listen to the buzzwords that they have recorded there are questionable. But whenever they tell me, now, Chaplain, you go to this particular place on the web, you look at what Mr. So-and-so said, and that is what we're going to do. It's so amazing how these people work, Kheri. So, yes, go ahead.
No. I'm listening to you, and I'm totally fascinated because, like you said, it's by the providence of God, because most of us will never have an opportunity to even be in the company of these people, let alone for these people to share secrets with us.
Well, that's true, and that's the reason that I consider it an honor to be on shows like yours and to be able to help people. The sole reason I'm here is to be able to help you know what to do, so that you, in turn, can spare your family a lot of heartache. So one of the first things that I learned years ago when I lived with the elite was that they do have a code of ethics. Now, I know this sounds strange, but these people do. They have a code of ethics, and amongst their code of ethics is that they must tell you what they're going to do before they do it. Now, they have unusual ways of telling you. And then after it's all done, they'll say, well, we told you so, why didn't you listen? Well, the average person doesn't know how to listen, because they don't know how these people talk. They think in a whole different world than what you and I think. They live in a different world than what you and I live in. Some of them could write a check for $1 million a day for the rest of their life and never spend their fortunes. So we're dealing with a completely different group and type and world of people. Now, they may tell you what they're going to do through a Hollywood movie. You'd be amazed how many buzzwords. Now, notice these words, buzzwords. That was what they were classified as. They tell you what they're going to do through certain expressions. You might find them on the national media. You might find them in the course of a movie. You may read them in some news article that's written. The president or the vice president may say something, and they have been told to say this by the elite, because it is part of what they are trying to tell the world that they're going to do. So really what happened was I was in contact with one of these individuals, and afterwards I was so, what should I say, startled or surprised at what I'd heard, until I actually contacted a second one of them, and I had to ask the question. I just heard so-and-so say this. Is it true? So they emailed me back, and they said, yes, it's all true. Well, that's all I had. I knew at that point that this definitely had been discussed behind closed doors. It was for real. And as a result, I immediately went in studio, did a DVD series. It just came this past week. I mean, that's how current this is. Just this past week, I did a new DVD series, and it came out on Monday of this past week, entitled New Signs the Elite Have Given Me. And I try to tell people everything that I have just been told. The elite are working right now toward a date for the collapse of all currencies. Now, I hope you caught that word all. It's not just America that's going to be involved in this. I did not say it was going to be next month. I definitely didn't say it's going to be 2 or 3 months from now. I didn't say it'd be a year from now. I haven't been given a date. But they're working towards something. In my opinion, from what I'm hearing and reading between the lines in conversations with these people, I think that you probably have a year, year and a half, but it is going to happen. Now, I feel fairly sure from what I'm hearing that I will know before it happens. And I have promised Kheri, we've talked off of the air, over the telephone, and I promised Kheri that whenever I find out the exact time they're going to do it, you know, if you know in advance what's going to happen, you can take precautions.
Yeah.
And I promised Kheri that as soon as, when they give me a date, when they give me a time, when they say it's going to be next month or the following month after that, I would immediately get in touch with her and let her know exactly when. But in the meantime, there are certain things that you must do, and you cannot procrastinate. Please, just because you have heard me say that it will probably be a year to a year and a half before there is a major crisis with the dollar, please don't wait that long to do what you have to do, because you can't. You're going to be facing too many issues between now and then, and you're going to see the dollar begin to deteriorate in its purchasing power tremendously. So you cannot afford to wait around to do something about what you're doing. So, Kheri, what would you think if I called you one day and I said, next month there's going to be a major crisis with the dollar? What would be one of the first things that would come to your mind?
Wow. I would probably think, what is the dollar worth today? Can I go and buy a bunch of things that I need? I don't know. I mean, I probably would panic first. And then secondly, I would be trying to figure out if the dollar is worth this today, I probably better use what I have, because tomorrow it may be worth less. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to give you a sign. Now, they have given me a number of signs. They haven't given me dates. I don't have that yet. But I have a number of signs. And I want you to write these down, if you will. Now, just recently in the country of Cyprus, there was an event that the whole world knew about. You remember, it was all over our news here in America. The country of Cyprus said, we are going into first of all, we're closing the banks down for a bank holiday. And they said, we are going into the bank account of every individual, and we're going to withdraw 9%. Well, the people literally rose up in arms. They said, no, you can't do this. Then the legislature finally backed off. And that's not the real story, though. The story that I found out about Cyprus, and it will relate to America in a little different form, which I'm going to give you in just a few moments. But the real story of what I heard about Cyprus was mind-boggling almost. The real reason for what happened in Cyprus is because of something that the New World Order elite wanted to do. It did not have anything to do with the average little John Doe person out there on the street that had maybe $40,000 or $50,000 in a bank account. That was not the reason for Cyprus. Cyprus was a money laundering country for the super wealthy. Now, I'm going to name the nations pretty much in order as they were given to me. Now, Cyprus has been for many years a money laundering center for the Russians. That's right, super wealthy Russians. Now, let me try to clarify. Well, I'll give you the other people also. Many Europeans had their money in Cyprus. The drug lords were running their money through Cyprus. There were a number of Middle East entities that were running their money through Cyprus. The weapons runners were running their money through Cyprus, and some of the terrorists were running their money through Cyprus. Now, let me try to clarify these groups of people. If I could say way up here at the top, I mean at the very, very top, you would have what I call the elite. And with the elite, it's not always money because they have so much that is not their motivating power. You would know them as the New World Order. So let's say up here at the very, very top, above everything and everybody, is what I would call the elite, the New World Order. Now, below that are a lot of people who are not a part of the elite, but they are super wealthy. They have millions and millions. They may even have a few billions. And they would fall in the category of the super wealthy, the upper middle class, and they were laundering Russians who are super wealthy, not a part of the elite, but they're super wealthy people, were laundering their money through Cyprus, and many Europeans and drug lords and terrorists and weapons runners. Well, the elite wanted to do away with their money. Now, I hope you're catching this, because you may have heard somewhere on the news, whether it registered or not, I don't know, but you've probably heard on the news that approximately $10 billion was lost in Cyprus. That's right. Approximately $10 billion. Now, you see, Cyprus was very similar to the United States of America in that in America we have an FDIC. And the FDIC guarantees a deposit that you have in the bank up to, I think it's $200,000. Anything over that, if that bank failed, you lost it. Well, in Cyprus, it was very similar. If you had a certain amount of money, and I don't know the exact amount, but I'll just say $200,000 in the bank, then they're comparable to our FDIC would cover that money. So the little people didn't lose quite that much. Can you imagine a person who had $10 or $20 million stashed away in a Cyprus bank, and they were a Russian who had a business in Russia? Can you imagine how much they lost if the only thing that the bank guaranteed was $200,000? Now, are you beginning to get the true picture of what Cyprus was really all about? These wealthy Russians, European, drug lords, weapons runners, terrorists, lost $10 billion in Cyprus with the stroke of a pen in one day. Now, think with me what this person would do. Just imagine that you're this businessman in Russia, and there are a lot of wealthy people in Russia. Not everybody is poor over there, and especially in oil. And let's say that you were a business person, had a business in Russia, and you had $4 million in a Cyprus bank, and you lost everything but $200,000 of it. What would you have to do? You'd have to go borrow some money to keep your business going, wouldn't you?
Oh,
because you just lost it.
Yeah.
You just lost your capital that you do business with. Do you realize that this is exactly what the elite wanted? Are you beginning to see the picture? The elite, the very top, the New World Order people wanted to, and I'm going to give you the exact words that were given to me. You ready? Disannul wealth. Disannul wealth. They wanted to disannul the wealth of these super wealthy who were not a part of the elite, but they must put them in debt. Are you catching it? Wow. They want every nation in the world, the elite do, the New World Order, before they collapse the currencies of the world, they want every nation in the world, they want every state in America, they want every city in America, every county, every person in America, they want them in such drastic debt that whenever they do finally decide to collapse the currencies of the world, they'll be able to step in and say, your greenback just became worthless, that you'll have to accept our new world currency. Your Constitution, you can't trust it anymore. But look what happened to you. Your government really did you any good, didn't they? You'll have to accept our new world order. This is the end goal of what these people are trying to do. And they did it first in Cyprus in a very unusual and subtle way. They wiped out $10 billion of money from the wealthy and the super wealthy who are not a part of the elite.
Mm.
What a fiasco. Now, watch this. Put it down beside your calendar, and you will see it as a prediction. Similar events to Cyprus are planned for nations all over the world. I hope you caught this. Now, I didn't say the exact same thing. They won't go and pull the same event again. They won't pull 9% out of anybody's account in any country in the world again, because they can't pull that same stunt again. But they're going to do something a little different. I want to give you some nations that are being considered as next. New Zealand, Japan, possibly Australia. You'll see some very unusual things happen in other nations in the world before very long, and it is going to happen in America. Would you like me to tell you what they are considering doing in the United States of America, Kheri?
Yeah.
Now, all of those of you who are involved, you must take action. You cannot wait around any longer. Now, whenever I use the word discussed, that doesn't mean that there has been a final decision made. It has been discussed behind closed doors that what they did in Cyprus, they will do to the retirement funds of the United States of America. No, not the bank accounts. No, they've already done that in Cyprus. They won't do it again here like that. They're going to go into, they're discussing, going into the retirement funds. Now, our president has already mentioned this. Yeah, you have heard it. It was very subtle. They haven't made a big deal out of it yet. 401ks, IRAs. Did you know that our president has already mentioned this in a public meeting? You might have heard him. And he talked about the fact that something needs to be done with the IRAs. He actually was voicing what has been discussed of actually going into these accounts and just stealing, literally pulling it out and saying, the United States of America, we are so much in debt, we can't keep this up. No more QE1, 2s, and 3s. We've got to do something. And they are discussing the possibility of going into these accounts and just literally stealing, withdrawing certain amounts. Kheri, can you imagine the American people that are going to hurt when this happens?
Oh, I can definitely imagine, Mr. Williams, and I can imagine the panic that's going to occur when this happens, because sometimes that's all that a person has is what they have put aside for retirement. So that is just crazy. If you just tuned in, you come center stage tonight for Lindsey Williams as he warns us of a financial collapse headed our way. If you have a bank account, a 401k, IRA, or a retirement account, Mr. Williams says you need to be watching out because it actually could be taken away from you overnight. Tonight's segment of Center Stage is being brought to you by African American News and Commentary Blog. They're your single source for news, events, and commentary that is of unique interest to African Americans. They can be found on the web at AfricanAmericanNewsAndCommentary.com. Listen, you guys, if you are not paying attention, you really should. You should get on the phone and call a friend, a neighbor, have somebody help interpret what Mr. Williams is saying tonight. He's saying we all have reason for concern. If we don't have our money in our mattress, then we have reason to be listening tonight because we have some bad stuff headed our way. He's saying that we are really getting ready to face a financial Armageddon. That's what's headed our way, y'all. And Mr. Williams, tell me, so what should someone be doing? I mean, what can you do to save yourself?
There are things that you can do, for instance, with an IRA. In fact, you can do it according to the laws that govern IRAs. You can turn it into a gold or a silver IRA. Now, I don't do this, but whoever your financial advisor is can tell you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And you can spare that right now before they come in and withdraw a certain amount of it. You can put it into a tangible rather than into paper, a tangible which they cannot touch, which you can actually hold in your hand. So I would highly recommend that those who are in retirement funds talk with your financial advisor, see what you can do. Those who are in their IRAs and the 401ks, you need to make some immediate decisions as to what you should do. Contact a person you trust in the financial world and find out what you can do. I would suggest one to you who is a fine Christian gentleman who appeared with me in my previous DVD series back about 6 months ago. And I think it was entitled The Next 4 Years and How to Survive the Next 4 Years. And in that series was a gentleman by the name of Tom Fowler. Tom Fowler is what I call a honest Christian, one of the most knowledgeable men in the financial world that I know today. He was actually a Wall Street insider for many years and finally couldn't stand the corruption of Wall Street any longer. And he will be glad to help you if you are willing to contact him. In fact, a phone call won't cost you a thing, and I would highly recommend that you contact him. I want to give you his phone number right now, just in case you don't have a financial advisor that you fully trust. Then at least give Tom a call. His number is 646-391-3549. Again, 646-391-3549. His name is Tom Fowler. He would be more than happy to talk with you. And you need to take immediate action because Cyprus was a warning. And when you see things happening like this, you realize the things that they have in store. You know, I could put all of this into one sentence, really. If it is written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. I hope that you'll keep that in mind. People oftentimes ask me, they say, well, Chaplain, I don't want to own real gold and real silver. I'd rather have paper gold. And you can. You can have paper gold if you'd like with the COMEX, and if you wanted to buy stocks into a gold mine or silver mine or something like that. And they say, well, Chaplain, what do you think about this? And I said, if it is written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And that's all that a stock or a bond is. It is a piece of paper that guarantees you certain rights. But that's all it is. And it's worth the paper it's written on. So keep in mind, you need to make some definite decisions in light of what the elite are doing. And take precautions immediately. Don't wait until it's too late to do something about it. So Cyprus is a good example of what has already taken place. And there will be other things similar to Cyprus that will take place in other nations. And watch out, America. America is not exempt. America will have some events before too long. You'll see them take place because of the national debt we've got. Now, there may be some people in Canada who are listening tonight. And if you are, let me tell you where to go to find out what your government has the right to do to you. Yeah, that's right. I was on a show the other day, and a person called in from Canada, and they said, do you think when all of this happens that Canada will suffer as much as the United States of America? And I said, positively. And I'd like to prove it to you right now. Since you have those pencils and paper handy, you can write it down. Canada just adopted a few days ago their budget for the year 2013. And you can get a copy of that. You can go on the web and find it. Even people here in America, if you wanted to, you can go to the budget of Canada and find it and prove what I'm saying right now. I want you to go to page 144 and 145. They call it the Economic Action Plan of 2013. Now, this is surprising to no end. Something similar to this may have already happened in Washington, and people haven't even caught up with it yet. Do you realize that congressmen don't read bills before they vote on them?
Wow.
And sometimes there are things hidden down in those bills that Even congressmen themselves don't catch until later. In fact, well, I'll give you one later on in the program tonight. But on page 144 and 145 of Canada's 2013 budget, it is written, and I'll read you the statement just as it is. The Canadian government promises that they would use Canadian depositors' systematic, important banks, if they fail, that they will use the deposits of Canadians to bail them out.
Wow.
I mean, it's in the budget for 2013 that the Canadian government can do what they did in Cyprus if there are a number of banks that fail, or if the bank that you happen to have your money in Canada fails. It's right written into page 144 and 145 of the Canadian 2013 budget that the government of Canada has the right to go into your bank account and remove portions of your deposit in order to save that bank that's going under.
Wow.
No, Canada, you aren't going to be spared from this at all. And we are being betrayed by our government officials by ever writing such things as this into legislation that's passed before Congress, and it's being passed in Canada. And we're facing all of this. I hope that you're aware of the fact that America is in big, big trouble financially, and it cannot go on forever. There are some things that are going to have to take place. That's the reason I called you the other day, and I said, Kheri, I really need to tell your listening audience what I have just heard and help to warn them that you need to take action immediately. You cannot wait any longer with the paper that you hold, which is going to become worthless at some point. And the time that you're going to face some of this in America, just like they faced in Cyprus, Kheri, is right around the corner.
Let me ask you a question. And I just said, what you asked me, what would I do? And I said I'd probably try to use the money that I had to buy some things. But one thing I think you said on a previous show is that you need to own your own home. So is that something that maybe someone may want to do with maybe like if they have a retirement account? Instead of just leaving the money in the retirement account and taking a chance that it may be taken from them, is paying off your home a good investment?
When the financial system, the American dollar, and the other currencies of the world, when they fail, what are some of the things that you positively must have? Now, just think about it for a moment. Number one, you can't do 24 hours without water. Well, you say, I've got plenty of that. I've got a well at my house. Okay, you're taken care of. You can't do very long without food. You can go a few days. You can go longer without food than you can without water. What are some of the other things that you positively can't do without? You must have a roof over your head. Do you realize that if that house that you own, you say you own it, if it's mortgaged, the bank owns it. You don't. You've never gotten the warranty deed yet. They don't give you that until you make the last payment. Do you realize that you have got to have a roof over your head, and that when you can't make the mortgage payment for so many months, that they will come in and repossess it? And whenever the financial condition of America continues to deteriorate, as it's doing right now, to the point that your currency becomes worthless more and more, purchasing power gone, I'm sure you recognize how much groceries are going up at the grocery store. How long can it go that your power bill goes up, your grocery store bill goes up, your clothes bill goes up, the cost of operating your household goes up? How long will it be that you can continue on the income that you have right now? You can only go so long. And then you can't make that house payment. And when you can't make the house payment, you know who's going to come in and repossess it? The lending institution. And who's going to be controlling the institutions? The Federal Reserve has already bailed them out with QE1, QE2, and QE3. For all practical purposes, they are owned by the Federal Reserve. They're controlled by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not an agency of the federal government any more than Federal Express is. And whenever they decide to take over your bank and repossess your house, do you realize that you have lost it when you can't make that house payment for so many months? I beg people, the necessities of life, water, food, roof over your head, you must have them paid for, Kheri. You really hit the nail on the head. There's some things that people need a lot more than they need a 401k or an IRA, Kheri.
I so agree. Because, and then as far as seeds, I think in some of the shows you even mentioned buying up seed to grow your own food.
You need that. And let me mention a subject that I dare to say very few people out there in your listening audience have even taken time to consider. Do you realize that the first day of next year, 2014, that America has a new medical law?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a whole new medical system in the United States of America beginning the first day of 2014. We have a whole new system. Do you realize also that it is estimated that 40% of the healthcare professionals of America are going to quit before the first day of 2014 because they can no longer make a living in the medical profession? Yeah, doctors, I hope you're watching this. You're not hearing anything about this on the national news. You're hearing practically nothing about it on radio talk shows. Do you realize that doctors, every few days almost, I'm hearing about another doctor that closed his practice? The ones who are ready for retirement are all quitting because they will not have taught in this new health care law. There are others that say we can't make it financially because the government will tell us what they'll give us for every patient we see, and we can't afford to live on that. We can't make a living at it. It is estimated that 40% of the healthcare professionals will have left the healthcare profession by January the 1st of next year. Do you realize you must be your own doctor? I mean, you must know what to do in order to take care of yourself. You can't any longer depend on the medicals. Okay, let's say that 40%, which has been estimated by very reputable people in the medical profession, that 40% of them will be gone by the first day of next year. Can you imagine what will happen when you go to the emergency room and 40% of the healthcare professionals are not there anymore? You think you're going to get any service whatsoever? I was talking to a very dear friend of ours in Washington State the other day, and they are in their 80s, and they had just gone to see their family doctor for their annual checkup. I gathered that's what they were talking about, and the doctor told them, said, well, I guess you won't be able to depend on me to be your family doctor any longer. Oh, doctor, you've been a family doctor for years. Yes, but you won't be able to depend on me any longer. He said, I am about ready for retirement anyway, and rather than to have to obey the new health care laws, which I can't conscientiously do with my patients, he said, I am retiring. So he said, you won't be able to come to me for medical service anymore in the future. Now, this is happening all over America. Doctors are opting out. They're quitting. Even some doctors who are in middle age and have been at this for 15 or 20 years are quitting because they can't make a living at it. They're going into other professions. The medical system is going to be critical. Now, Kheri, you know that just recently I had quite a physical crisis myself.
Right.
I am a very healthy person. In fact, I probably had not been to a doctor for 20 or 30 years. I just don't know what it is to get sick normally. But I became deathly ill back in January, and I didn't do radio talk shows for weeks, in fact, for a few months. And my elite friend had said to me years ago, he said, Chaplain, if you ever are very sick, you've got to go where we go. Now, please bear with me on this because these people know where to go when they get sick. Have you ever wondered why that some of the elite who you know their names, Mr. Kissinger, he's one of the very top. Daddy Bush, the older Bush, Mr. New World Order himself. Have you ever wondered why these people are 80 years of age and yet they're still running around their house and are perfectly healthy? They know what to do. They know where to go when they get sick. And my elite friend had said to me, he said, Chaplain, if you ever really get sick, bad sick, he said, just go where we go. Well, I did. I called up Dr. Rodriguez, whom, of course, you have met, Kheri, and I said, I am so sick, I think I'm going to die. I said, I need your help. He said, come on down. He said, we'll give you a tune-up. I spent 3 weeks, about 5 miles across the border into Mexico, at the International BioCare Hospital and Clinic, where my elite friend has gone, and they literally took care of an item that could never be taken care of in the United States of America. When they finally found out what I had, I didn't have cancer, didn't have heart problems, but when they finally found out what I had, Dr. Vasquez, who had been assigned to my case, one of the doctors on staff, said to me, Chaplain, there is no doctor and no hospital in the United States of America that could have treated your problem. He said, all they would have done is said, yes, this is what's wrong with you, but we don't have anything that we can do for you. Just go home and suffer. Only by natural methods could what I had be taken care of. And I stayed there for 3 weeks. They literally did give me a physical tune-up. I came back feeling much, much better. Have continued to improve to the point that I think I'm pretty much back to normal. Now, there's not every person who can afford to go where the elite go.
Right.
It's not that expensive, but maybe you can't afford it. Maybe you can't cross the border into Mexico and spend 3 weeks. But there is something you can do. Since I have been back, I've been using something that is amazing. You need this in your medicine cabinet. In fact, you've got to have it in your medicine cabinet. There's no two ways around it. And this is not something that's going to cost you a fortune. It's not something you have to go to the hospital where the elite go. It's not something that you have to go outside the United States of America to get. When President Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States of America, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. Now, this is a fact. This is true. You can find it in the history of President Ronald Reagan. And he was president of the United States of America at the time. President Ronald Reagan was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he said he would not have chemotherapy. He would not allow them to operate on him, and he was not going to take radiation. At the time, there was a substance that had been developed in Europe, which is a substance from a plant. It's perfectly natural, no chemicals whatsoever, a plant. And President Reagan imported it into the United States of America. It was illegal to be brought into America. It could not be brought in, and nobody could get it here. But President Reagan brought it into the United States of America. He took it. He never had an operation. He never had chemotherapy. He never had radiation. And until the day he died, he never had a reoccurrence of his colon cancer. Now, that was many years ago. Today, finally, just recently, someone has actually brought this substance into America, and you can get it now. And I began taking it after I left the IBC hospital, where they had brought me back to a point where I was very close to being normal again. And I have used this, which President Ronald Reagan used when he was president of the United States of America, to complete my recovery in an amazing way. And in approximately 6 weeks' time, I came back from a disease that if I had been trusting American doctors and hospitals, I could not have been cured of. I would have had to have suffered for the rest of my life. Now, I'm going to tell you what it is. In fact, if you'll go in the history of Ronald Reagan, you can discover this for yourself, but very few people ever knew that it happened. But you go back and prove it for yourself. Just don't take my word for it, but prove it for yourself. This is something that comes from a plant, the Venus flytrap. Now, that sounds strange, doesn't it? There is a plant. that is grown in certain parts of the world, that it has a fragrance that attracts flies and little insects. And whenever the insect goes in is attracted by what's in the plant actually closes its leaves real fast, and it's caught within the plant, and the plant will dissolve it, literally dissolve it, and it becomes food for the plant. And it's called the Venus flytrap. Someone decided, I don't know how they ever found this out, but they actually found out that they could take the substance that's in the Venus flytrap, and if a person used it in their body, they found a way to process it and take it out, and if a person would use it in their body, it would literally work miracles on many, many things. Now, I said earlier in the program I did not have cancer. I did not have heart problems. I had something else, which I'm not going to mention over the air, but this has helped to bring me back to complete recovery, and I'm going to spell it for you. Some of you may have trouble with it. It's called carnivora, CARNIVORA, and it's just recently been brought into the United States of America. Prior to that, it was illegal, because if people would use this, they could have the treatment necessary to take care of so many diseases that it would hurt the medical profession. Doctors would be going out of business for lack of having patients. You could take care of yourself. Now, when the new health care law comes into effect at the beginning of 2014, you have got to know how to be your own doctor. You cannot any longer depend on the medical system, because it's not going to be there for you. Please, let me warn you, it won't be there. So I want to give you, just out of courtesy for those of you who want to do something, but yet you can't afford to go where the elite go. You can. I'm just going to tell you where you can get carnivora. I do not sell it. This is not something that Lindsey Williams handles, but it's something that you can get in the United States of America now, which was used by President Ronald Reagan, and you can call the company that has started importing it into America. It's a toll-free number. The number is 866-836-8735. Now, folks, are you noticing something? Have you noticed tonight that I have given you a number of items that will help to save you and your family great heartache? And I've told you outright, I don't handle these things. This is not something I sell. Are you beginning to believe that I'm here tonight for the purpose of trying to help you? I hope you're realizing this. I'm not here just to be able to try to con you into something. I'm trying to help you prepare for the inevitable. Now, once again, just in case you didn't get it, 866-836-8735. You can get a substance that President Ronald Reagan used to take care of his colon cancer when he was the President of the United States of America. I can't tell you all the other things that it does. You can go on the Internet and look, if you will, in different places and find out exactly what this will do and what it can help you with. You must right now begin to prepare for a number of things. Now, let's go back over what we talked about a few moments ago, Kheri. First of all, you can't do without water. And not 24 hours you can't. You can't do without food, maybe for a few days, but not for a long period of time if there's a financial collapse. Can you imagine what the people in Boston did at the time this terrorist set off that bomb at the Boston Marathon? And the police came in and said, nobody moves out of their house. You can't even go out to the grocery store. You don't dare stick your head out of your house. I mean, the entire city was locked down. Suppose you didn't have food and you had to stay in your house for 3 to 4 days. What would you do? You must think about these things now. Now, suppose that you can't get help at the emergency room and you've got a problem. Now, if you've got a broken limb, that's another story. You must have a doctor for that. They've got to set it. But if you've got something wrong with you and you have something in the medicine cabinet that can take care of it, you are far ahead of others who aren't going to have a way around the problems they have. So it's my business, if I can, to be able to help you know what you can do. And, Kheri, I've listed just a few things that can be of great help to those out there in your listening audience. And they're not things that are going to cost you $40 to pay off your house may cost you a lot of money. But it's better than having your money in your IRA and have the elite come in and do what they did in Cyprus and just automatically pull some money out of your account one day and you have very little, if anything, left. You're a lot better off to have a paid-for roof over your head. So, Kheri, maybe there's some other things that you've thought about while I've been listing these here this afternoon.
You know, I was just listening to you, and my mind was racing about what to do because the situation in Boston did create a situation in which people had to have whatever they needed to sustain themselves in the house, or they were not going to have it. So I would think that everyone would need to start compiling lists of things that were important to their day-to-day living situations that they would need in the event that we have such a crisis as they did in Cyprus, where your money all of a sudden is gone, your retirement is gone, and what are you going to do? So maybe some things need to be paid off, like you say, the house and whatever in terms of seed and water, things to sustain you, whatever that is in your life that I would think that that you would need to sustain you. Y'all, you just tuned in. You've come center stage tonight. We're talking to Mr. Lindsey Williams as he warns us of a financial collapse that's looming. It's headed our way, y'all. If you have a bank account, a 401k, an IRA, a retirement account, you need to be thinking about what you need to do with your funds. Find a financial advisor. Mr. Williams has given you one tonight. Find someone to talk to about what to do with your money. Think about what it's going to take to sustain you and your family in the event that things start to change really quickly, as Mr. Williams has said tonight. If you have a question for Mr. Williams tonight, get on the phone lines. Call us up at 347-850-8390. Maybe your situation is unique. It's not anything that we've mentioned so far. If you have some questions, call Mr. Williams and ask him what does he think that you need to be doing. If you're in the chat room tonight and you have a question, put it in the chat room, and I will pose it to Mr. Williams before the end of the night. Tonight's segment of Center Stage is being brought to you by African American News and Commentary Blog, your single source news, events, and commentary that is of unique interest to African Americans. They can be found on the web at AfricanAmericanNewsAndCommentary.com. You know, listening to you, Mr. Williams, and I know God does not give us the spirit of fear, so that's not where we should be right now as we're listening to Mr. Williams. But I think what Mr. Williams is doing tonight is giving us time to prepare. He said it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen 6 months from now, which would be perfect to give us time to get our houses in order. So what would you say, besides the things that you've mentioned, Mr. Williams, that we should be doing?
Well, Kheri, that's what I'm doing tonight, is giving solutions. And please, you must not allow this to worry you. You cannot stay awake at night. That is the exact opposite of what the right thing is. The Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind. And you cannot worry over all of this. Instead, let what you're hearing me say help you prepare for what that you don't have to suffer through this. Keep in mind, many people in 1929 through 1933, at the time of the Great Depression, there were many people who made great fortunes. Not everybody stood in a soup line. And the ones who made great fortunes were ones who had made preparation ahead of time. They knew it was going to happen. Now, Kheri, after I was talking with my elite friend and then verified it with another individual, I said, I must tell the world. And now this was only days ago. This is not 2 or 3, 4 months ago. This is days ago. I immediately went in studio before the cameras and produced a DVD series. The first ones went out this past week. Yeah, this past Monday. The first of these went out. It's entitled New Signs the Elite Have Given Me. And it's an hour and 30 minutes long. It's DVD that you watch on the television in your home. You need this in order to be able to help you and your friends know exactly what we're facing right around the corner. Now, we've done a number of things with this new DVD series. First of all, you will like the fact that we we compacted it and put the whole thing on one DVD. Many of you remember that about 5 months ago I produced a DVD series entitled The Next 4 Years and How to Survive the Next 4 Years. You've got to have that because of this present situation that's in Washington, D.C. But I hope you've already gotten it. Now, that DVD series, it was very, very intricate, and it cost us a lot of money to produce it because we had to have an editor. We had to have many, many different things to do it. We have reduced the price of our new DVD series that just came out this past week. We have reduced the price 70%. No, you heard me correctly. 70% over the previous series that we had done because I felt that it was so important, regardless of what it took to do it. I felt it was so important for people to know what I have just been told, that we have taken the signs that the elite have given me. You have it available to you now, and you can get it. It's not copywritten. I want you to copy it and give it to every friend and neighbor that you have. So you have those pencils and paper handy. Let me give you our toll-free number, and also where you can go on the web and get it if you wish after the program tonight. You can go toll-free 1-888-799-6111. You can call that number during office hours on tomorrow. You will talk with an American operator, by the way, not somebody in some foreign country. Again, that number is 888-799-6111, or you can go on the web even tonight if you wish to prophecyclub.com, prophecyclub.com, and you will find the new DVD series, and they'll ship it to you the next day. They're ready to be shipped. It's not something you have to wait on. And the title of it is New Signs the Elite Have Given Me. Now, there's another item that I need to mention so that you can get immediate response and know things actually sometimes within 24 hours of the time they happen. There is a website out there with my name, LindseyWilliams.net. Not .com, but .net. Lindsey, Lindsey, Williams.net. You remember about 3.5, 4 years ago, I got the elite quite upset. I was saying too much. And one of them called me on the phone one day, and he said, Chaplain, you've gone too far. You're saying too much. He said, you can't keep this up. And he said, you either do this and this and this, or we're going to do this and this and this. And what he said was not very pleasant. So I decided to close down my website. That was one of the things they wanted me to do, and they didn't want me to mention names anymore, which I stopped doing that. Now, I have not had a website for another 4 years. And recently someone said to me, Chaplain Williams, did you know there's a website out there with your name on it? I said, it's not mine. I said, no way. They said, yes, there is. Well, I found out that a man in Great Britain, of all places, not in the United States of America, but a computer programmer in Great Britain actually set up a website in my name, LindseyWilliams.net. I was finally able to contact him and come to find out that he did it because he said, people have got to know what you're saying. And he said, I am archiving radio shows every time I know that you have one. Well, I said, well, let me help you out. I said, there's some things I can tell you. So I said, I will tell you in advance radio shows that I'm going to be on. Your show tonight, Kheri, it's listed on LindseyWilliams.net. People could have found out about it in advance. You can find out about the show that I'm going to be on after I'm with you tonight, Kheri. You can find out about the 2 shows that I'll be on Wednesday. And you can find out shows day after day after day that I'm going to be on, and you can listen to them because it'll tell you where to go to them. Also, I am sending to the webmaster who handles this website, I'm sending him special bulletins. Anytime something happens that I feel is vital to the welfare of you, all you have to do is go to LindseyWilliams.net. And by the way, this is a free website. You don't have to pay a thing. You don't have to get a subscription to this one. I want to make it so that every person can get it. And you can go there, and anytime I post a bulletin that I feel is vital to you and your household, you can look at it instantaneously right there on lindseywilliams.net and find out the programs I'm on, and you'll see our new DVD talked about there. You'll find the hospital where the elite go when they get sick. You'll find it listed there with my picture with Dr. Rodriguez in Mexico. So you'll find a lot of, there's even a health section there in which I list things that I have found to work. We haven't put carnivora up there yet because I don't have a DVD on it, but we will be getting it up before too long because it has worked so well for me and also for my wife who has arthritis. So every time that I find something that I feel will be vital to you, we will list it on lindseywilliams.net. So you can either go to our toll-free number, 888-799-6111, or you can go to prophecyclub.com, or you can go for latest bulletins to lindseywilliams.net. Now, I mentioned earlier in the program tonight, and again, Kheri, I want to thank you so much for letting me be with you this evening. I just feel so honored. I had the privilege, those of you out there in the listening audience, I had the privilege of doing a show right from the International BioCare Hospital in Mexico. I literally was there. And Kheri allowed Dr. Rodriguez and me to be on her show. We had a great time, didn't we, Kheri?
Yes, we did. Absolutely.
Now, I think it was 9 different radio talk shows while I was the second week that I was at the International BioCare Hospital. 9 different talk show hosts allowed me to have Dr. Rodriguez on with me. I'm going to have to admit to you, I got a college education. I mean, just listening to this man explain how to do everything natural. They don't use chemicals down there. They don't use chemo. They don't accept they just won't do things wrong. They use things natural. And just listening to this man in the course of about 8 or 9 hours of being on talk shows together, and he did most of the talking. I didn't want to talk as long as I had a person of this stature with me. He was 69 years of age. He was the founder of the International BioCare Hospital back about 30 years ago, and just a man of brilliance. He's sought after all over the world as a speaker. And just to listen to him during the course of those shows, I literally got a college education. And you'll see my picture with Dr. Rodriguez on my website, lindseywilliams.net. Okay, earlier in the program, I promised to tell you where to go and find the information, and I'll try to put it this way. Oftentimes, my elite friends will say to me, and instead of explaining something to me, sometimes they'll say to me, Chaplain, I want you to go to this place, and you'll find what we're going to do there. Did you catch this? You will find there what we're going to do. Now, whenever they say that, I know I'm going to find buzzwords there. You remember earlier in the program I mentioned sometimes they will tell you what they're going to do through a movie, or maybe a national news broadcast. Maybe they'll tell you through an article that's printed in a periodical somewhere. The average person doesn't know how to pick up on these buzzwords. But sometimes my elite friends will say to me, Chaplain, you need to go to this particular article in this particular newspaper, and you'll find out what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to do that for you right now. And I want you to go and prove it for yourself. After the program tonight, don't shut off your radio, don't leave your computer, but after the program tonight, I want you to go and personally prove what I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. Go prove it for yourself, and I'm going to point the buzzwords out to you. Now, you very seldom ever have anybody do this for you because the average person doesn't get this information from the elite. And so that's the reason I'm so glad I'm here tonight, Kheri. I can tell you people where to go for it, and they don't have to take my word for it. They can go out there and prove it for themselves. All right, here's the first one. April the 2nd, 2013. Now, be sure and get the date down so you get it correctly. April the 2nd of 2013, and it was in the New York Times. And the article is entitled, David Stockman Warns. Now, you can look at this up on the web for yourself. It's still there. I just went and looked at it myself the other day to make sure it was there. New York Times, April the 2nd, 2013, David Stockman warns. Now, let me point out who David Stockman is. David Stockman was the budget director for President Ronald Reagan. He's an older gentleman now, and he just wrote a book, and it was featured by the New York Times. And my elite friend said to me, Chaplain, you go there, and you will find what's going to be done. Now, are you catching this? You don't have to take my words for this. You can take their words for it, them, personally. Folks, you must listen. They are telling you something. The New World Order, they have a code of ethics, and part of their code of ethics is they must tell you what they're going to do before they do it, and they are telling you something here. And I'm going to point it out to you. This is not Lindsey Williams. This is David Stockman saying it, and you can read it for yourself. Quote, Stockman wrote that the Fed's quantitative easing policies following the credit crisis has flooded stock markets with cash even while Main Street economy remains weak. The combination is unsustainable. Did you catch that word?
Wow.
That means it cannot continue. I know. Some of you, the whole time you've been listening to this program tonight, are saying, oh, this guy's just out there trying to wave a red flag. It's not going to happen. Oh, yes, it is. They have already told you it's going to happen. You've got to listen to them. Whether you like it or not, make preparations now. Don't hide your head in the sand. David Stockman says that the present quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, and 3, the policies of the Federal Reserve, he said they are unsustainable. That means they cannot continue. They've got to come to an end. Now, you ready for the rest of the buzzwords? Now, you can go read these for yourself after the program tonight. I'm reading you just a few of them right here so I can point the buzzwords out. Because you might not pick up the buzzwords. I'm pointing them out to you. Now, this is quote. David Stockman said, when it burst. I'm going to pause there for a moment. He didn't say if it's going to burst. He didn't say possibly it's going to burst. What did he say? When it bursts. It's going to happen, and it's not going to be very long off. Folks, this is going to take place. You don't have forever. Okay, I'm going to finish reading his words. When it bursts, there will be no new round of bailouts like the ones that the bank got in 2008. You know what that was? Quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, quantitative easing 3, bring it right down to today. He said they're not going to do that anymore. Now, if you don't bail the banks out and they give out the money, are you going to get yours? Not on your life. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. I'm begging you to listen to what they are telling you. David Stockman said, instead, America will descend into an era of zero-sum austerity, that violent political conflict, extinguishing even today's feeble remnants of economic growth. Now, I want to point out a few buzzwords here. You've got to see these. He said America is going into an era of zero-sum austerity. That means zero business. Business is going to fail. The dollar is going to fail. When there's no bailout of the banks, as they did at the end of President Bush's administration with quantitative easing 1, and as they've done since with quantitative easing 2 and 3, when they do not bail them out again, you will see what happened in 1929. And he says that America will descend into an era of zero sum. Now, you just don't take a business to zero. When Walmart can't sell products, they have to close their door. When Target can't sell products, they have to close their door. When there's zero, you can't stay in business. Little businesses will be quitting. They'll be closing doors. Hospitals won't be there for you when you need them. Doctors won't be able to stay in business. They have to make a living too. And all of this is a part of the New World Order. I know. Let me try to explain this if I can. People lately have been calling in on radio talk shows that I've been on, and they've asked me the question. They said, Chaplain, you know some of these elite. You lived with them for a while. Why would they destroy their own country? Talking about America, because most of them live here. They said, why would they destroy their own country? And my answer, I've tried my best to help people understand it. You just don't understand the mindset of the elite. They aren't destroying their own country. They are bringing the country under their control. They want to bring about a collapse that is so great that your child will be crying for food. And you'll be glad to say, just give us a new currency. Just anything. We'll give up our Constitution. We might even give up our guns. We'll give up. You just give me a job. Let me feed my family. We'll be glad to take a new currency. They want you to beg for their help. And at that point, they'll come in with a new currency. They'll come in with a new Constitution. They'll come in with bringing America back out of its chaos. And this is the method that the New World Order accomplishes what they want. It is the name of the game is control. You've heard me say this for years, that the name of the game of the elite is control. They want total control over you, your house, your business, your livelihood, everything. It's no different than what Hitler did, no different than what Stalin did, no different than what Mussolini did. The men who literally were obsessed with power over the years have done the very thing that the New World Order crowd has proposed and has planned for years, and it merely means a financial collapse to the point that people will beg them to come in and get them out of the mess that they're in. So they aren't destroying their country. They're actually bringing this country under the total control of the New World Order. Now, Kheri, we may have some people out there that are emailing in, or there may be some people who are on the telephone. If so, I'll break this long enough if you'd like to include some of them.
Okay. If you just tuned in, you come center stage tonight for the topic. Mr. Lindsey Williams is warning us of a financial collapse that's headed our way. If you have a bank account, a 401k, a retirement account, IRA, this is a show you need to be tuning into because he says we are headed toward a financial collapse. If you're on the phone lines and have a question or a comment, press 1 to speak with Mr. Williams and ask him any financial questions you may have about what's going on with all this financial buzzwords that we need to know about, because Mr. Williams says the elites don't do anything without giving us some type of warning sign, but we need to be aware of it. And so we need to understand, if I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Williams, if we train ourselves to understand the buzzwords, then we can see it coming as it's headed our way.
Kheri, that's exactly right. If you know what you're going to face, there's something you can do about it. The most dangerous thing is when you don't know you're going to face something, and then all of a sudden it catches you off guard. You're in trouble. But if you know something is coming and you have time to prepare for it, then there's no reason whatsoever for panic. You know the thing that concerns me most about what I know, Kheri, and that is what's going to happen to people when it catches them off guard. I saw some statistics the other day of the percentage of the American people that are on psychic drugs of some type. Children on Ritalin in school. And when I saw the figures, I was utterly flabbergasted. Can you imagine those people not being able to get their drugs? Can you imagine those who are on Medicare and Medicaid not being able to get the drugs that they've been given because the financial system collapses? Do you realize what these people are going to do? They're going to freak out. Have you ever seen a person on withdrawal from drugs? I don't know that I've ever actually witnessed it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've read stories about it. It's a horrifying situation. Now, imagine those people that are on their prescription drugs and they cannot afford them. They can't get their Ritalin any longer. They can't get their other psychic drugs. Can you imagine what's going to happen when the financial collapse takes place? It's more concerning to me about these people who will literally freak out than it is those who will lose their money in a bank and get mad.
So you think it's the people that, the psychotic people who may not have access to their medicine, but I think it's all the above. I think it could even be the person who has 5 kids who, doesn't have any more food in the refrigerator and has to wonder how she's going to feed her kids, or it could be any number of people who just are not prepared. And I think what I found, Mr. Williams, and I've said this to a friend of mine recently, there are just going to be those that are just not going to be, because most people, and I think this is the masses, are just not prepared to believe that something like this could be coming. I think it's just too much to wrap their minds around, so it's easier to be in denial than to believe that your government is getting ready to do this to you. That's what I believe. I mean, because ultimately it's going to have to come through the government, correct? The elitists are making.
Yeah, go ahead, Kheri.
Well, if the elitists may be making the decisions, but ultimately our government will have to implement this, correct?
Yes. In fact, we already know it's in the works. Okay. They've tried to get a budget through Congress over and over and over and over and over, and never can agree. Mm-hmm. Here we have the president telling us that we have a national debt that is up into the trillions. We have banks failing every weekend. They'll close a few more instead of closing a whole lot at one time, so that it would be an alarm to people. I mean, all you have to do is just look around and you'll see the handwriting on the wall. Okay, I'm ready to give you now the second place I was told to go. You ready?
Okay.
I hope you're writing these down, because you can go and prove them for yourself. Again, I say, don't just take my word for it tonight. Go and listen to them. I was told to go to a speech that was given on April the 5th of 2013. Now, folks, I'm giving you facts and figures and dates. This is not just personal opinion. And on April the 5th of 2013, the Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. Joe Biden, spoke before the Export-Import Bank Conference. And I was told to go and listen to his words. And I'm going to point out the buzzwords, just a few of them in his speech. I don't have time to go into the entire speech. It was quite lengthy. You can listen to it on the web if you'd like. And you can pick out these buzzwords for yourself. And now keep in mind, Vice President Joe Biden put his hand on the Bible and pledged an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And when you hear what he said in his speech, which you can go and listen to for yourself and not just take my word for it, you're going to say, this man is a utter, total deceiver. He is not keeping his word. He is not keeping his oath. He is not keeping his promise. I want to point the buzzwords out to you. Now, here we go. Vice President Joe Biden called for the creation of a new world order. Now, that's nothing new. We've been hearing that for a long time. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I want to go to the next expression of buzzwords. You ready? Now, please go and listen to this for yourself. He called for a new financial institutions. Did you catch that? New financial institutions. Do you know what new financial institutions are? Bank is an institution. Finances is money. Do you realize he's calling for a new currency?
Wow.
That's right. He is calling for this man has the audacity before the Export-Import Bank at their conference on April the 5th of 2013 to scuttle everything he said when he took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And he is basically slapping the Constitution in the face and saying we need a new currency in the United States of America. I mean, the audacity of him to even have the courage, how could he possibly? All right, new financial institutions. That means the old ones have got to fail. We're going to have new currency. We're going to have a new banking system. Now, there's another buzzword here. I'm pointing out buzzwords. He said, updated global rules. These are his exact words. Go listen to his speech. Updated global rules, not the Constitution of the United States of America. He said, this is global. Do you realize that he is actually proposing that we give up our Constitution? Now, this was just in his speech the other day. And I was told to go and read this because this is what's going to happen. This is the plan of the new world order, the elite, and they're speaking through the Vice President of the United States of America to give you the buzzwords as to what their intentions are. Now, they may not accomplish this. There may be enough Americans out there that will say, we aren't going to allow it. I hope so. But if they have their way, Vice President Joe Biden told the American people exactly what he was going to do. He said new financial institutions, updated global rules, and the third one is going to appall you. A level playing field. What does that mean? Global rules. That means every country in the world. Level playing field. That means they're going to bring America down to the level of Mexico and third world countries and South American countries, bring them up to our level, a level playing field. I hope you're catching this, folks. They're on the verge of attempting to do this. They are ready to accomplish what they want. I personally don't think they're going to accomplish it. I'm speaking just as an individual. I'm not speaking from what I have been told, but from an individual. I think the American people still have enough sense of freedom. You know, this business about guns, regardless of what you think about guns, Mr. Obama, when he said what he did about guns, he promoted the sale of guns and ammunition more than any person ever has in my lifetime. I mean, they wiped the gun stores out. You can't buy ammunition today. It's not available anywhere. If it comes in, I went by Walmart the other day, and I thought I would see if they have any shotgun shells available. My son loves to go skeet shooting, and they said, the man just kind of laughed. He said, get here at 8 o'clock. He said, if any comes in, they're sold within a few minutes. He said, there's a line waiting here to buy ammunition every morning, and he said they buy it within seconds after we put it out on the display. He said, you come in the afternoon, you're not going to get anything.
Can I add something to that, Mr. Williams? I saw just on the news last night where they said that bullets, this guy who likes to go target practicing, normally, goes and does it on a regular basis, but they said he couldn't afford to do it anymore because 4 years ago, a box of bullets cost $9. Today, that same box of bullets costs $30.
That would be very typical of certain ammunition, of certain rounds and types. You're exactly right. But not only that, you can't get them even if you're willing to pay the $30 for them.
Yeah.
So Mr. Biden said we're going to have a level playing field in which all the nations of the world are going to get together on one big, glorious, happy family on even terms, and everybody be the same. Now, that means you have to give up your Constitution. You've got to give up your currency. You're going to have to give up your wonderful American dream because the rest of the world don't have it. But you do. You have all of your life. You've had about everything you wanted up until recently when the economy got so bad. Now many people are hurting. But level playing field, updated global rules, financial institutions, and I was told to go and look at all this. Folks, are you hearing what they're telling you? They are telling you, the New World Order is telling you what they are going to do in the very near future. And barring a miracle, I'm going to put it this way, I'm going to step further. Barring divine intervention, I think this will happen. But I don't think the American people are going to stand for it, because there is a sense of freedom amongst the American people that no people on the face of the earth have. And I believe that the American people aren't going to stand for this. I think we're going to see something take place that will be very unusual. It may be very drastic, but I'm hoping and trusting that it will not happen, Kheri.
But you know what? I used to think the same way, Mr. Williams. But I think the problem I saw is those people over in the Middle East were pretty, serious about fighting for their rights, and we saw those nations over there start, falling off like dominoes. And so I think it's not as simple as people might think to stand up for your rights, because even though there may be some that are willing, it's so many others that will probably choose to just stay on the porch. And so without having enough ammunition to fight, what can you really do?
Well, I guess all of those are things that we will have to see whether they're going to happen or not. Keep in mind, of course, that Americans are the only nation on the face of the earth where the people still have guns in their hands.
Sure.
All the rest of the world, except for maybe Switzerland, they've been taken away from them. And you know how many people died after Hitler got the guns and after Stalin got the guns.
Absolutely. And in that same story that I saw last night, they talked to some workers at a factory that produces bullets. And the person basically said in the interview, if we worked all the overtime that they would give us, and that would be 7 days a week, we still couldn't keep up with the demand. It was just that big of a demand for bullets. And so you really just wonder, I kind of wonder, though, is this a supply and demand issue? I mean, really, did he just create a situation in which people could gouge you? Because I just can't believe,
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. I know immediately after the president made the statement that he was going to do everything in his power to do certain things about guns. We have a favorite gun store that we do business with. And just a few days later, I said to my son Daniel one day, I said, let's go by the gun store just for the fun of it and see what it looks like. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The American people had literally wiped the store out. I couldn't believe blank shelves everywhere. They had bought everything they could get their hands on. I don't guess anybody in the world has ever promoted guns ownership and ammunition ownership as much as the President of the United States of America that we presently have. He's gotten guns into more hands than any other president ever has. And likewise, the same thing with ammunition. People are so afraid that the ammunition might be marked, that it might be taken away from them, until they can't buy fast. And naturally, when there's a shortage of something, the price is going to go up. That's just natural.
Right.
So that's just free enterprise. You let there be a glut of the product on the market, the price goes down. You let there be a great need for the product, and the price of the product goes up. You know, Kheri, there's something else, too, that is really concerning me recently, and that is that the police departments and the counties around the country, and the police and the counties and the cities, they can't buy ammunition now either. And they are required to go out and practice every so often in order to maintain whatever their status is with the police department. And many of the supplies of ammunition of our police are running low right now. And some of the counties are wondering how much longer they're going to last because they can't buy. You can't buy it. They can't buy it.
Well, you know, that brings up the third part of that story, and I think I was watching this on Fox last night. The third part of that story was that people are starting to believe that the government is stockpiling ammunition. And so if that's the case, why? Why is the government stockpiling ammunition? That's what's creating the biggest portion of this shortage. So why is the government doing that?
Government is existent for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to protect themselves. I know years ago we used to think the government was out there to protect us. Well, all you have to do is look at Katrina in New Orleans and you'll come to realize that the government's out there to protect themselves first. And after that, they might help you out a little bit. They are purchasing large amounts of ammunition. Why are they getting it? It's quite obvious. They know we're going to have a problem. They understand that there is a crisis around the corner. And they are preparing themselves for their own protection, not for your protection, for their own protection. And that's the reason I think they've bought massive amounts. But they have created the crisis by buying so much. And then the second it hits the market, if you happen to go to any of the gun shows, just watch how people are buying every piece of ammunition they can get their hands on at a gun show. It is amazing how it's wiped out the moment that people see it there.
Haven't you always contended that people needed a gun?
How did what now?
Haven't you always contended that everyone needed their own gun?
Oh, positively. Every nation, whether it be Stalin's Russia or whether it be Hitler's Germany, when the guns were taken away, the government became a tyrant. And millions were murdered by Stalin and Hitler. You don't allow government to have the power. The power is in the hands of the people. The first three words of the Constitution is we, the people, not we, the government.
So to recap, people need guns, people need food, people need water, and people need shelter.
Yes.
Okay.
And I beg people, if there's any possible way that you can pay off that house, you need a paid-for roof over your head. Now, if you're in the real estate business and you want to own a dozen other houses that are mortgaged, well and good. But for you and your family, you need a paid-for roof over your head at any cost. I oftentimes remark, I'd rather own a log cabin in the middle of nowhere and have it paid for than to live in a multi-million-dollar mansion someplace else and have a mortgage on it. When you can't pay that mortgage, they are going to come and repossess it and push you out. And that is exactly what the New World Order wants. They want you into debt, and it is a trap. Don't allow yourself to get into it. If you cannot afford to pay for it, don't buy it.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Williams. Another way that they can steal wealth, and there's been rumors, is through Social Security. Are the elitists saying anything about them stealing the wealth out of the Social Security account?
The last thing that will ever be touched in the United States of America will be Social Security, food stamps, and welfare. Because they know the day that they touch any of those one things, there will be riots in the street. As long as the government can find one penny to pay those checks, even though they're utterly worthless, and even though the dollar may lose its purchasing power to the point that you can hardly take that Social Security check and buy the groceries you need for a week, they will continue sending those out just as long as they possibly can, because they don't want riots. They want to bring the New World Order in according to their own dictates.
But the day will come, but that's going to be the last. That's going to be at the tail end of whatever it is they're doing.
That'll be way down the line. That'll be the last thing they'll touch. They're going to touch individual retirement funds, it's my estimation, and they'll do that right shortly. They may pull more and more money out of Social Security and give you less and less with the based on the fact, well, we just got to have more because we have so much debt out here. We have to do something about it. And they'll just drain you dry. There are going to be more and more taxes. You can be assured of that. There are going to be a number of new taxes tacked on. It wouldn't surprise me at all to have a new tax come out of Washington, maybe a value-added tax, maybe a national sales tax. There are going to be a number of taxes. Do you remember back when we were going through this business of a fiscal cliff? All we could talk about was taxing the rich, taxing the rich, taxing the rich. That was the furthest thing in this world from the truth. The real truth of the matter was they are going to tax into oblivion the average American citizen. You are going to be taxed out of, you're going to be taxed out of business. The rich have their, I know some of these people. I rubbed shoulders with them all those years. I still keep in touch with some. They have their money already protected. They've already put it in places like the Caymans and the Turks and Caicos, Liechtenstein, and other places like that. They have their money protected. They're not going to lose it, but they're going to tax you into oblivion. You may as well make some preparations for the inevitable, because you are going to face it with your family. You notice now they're trying to tax the internet.
Yes. Yes.
And it's going to be one tax after the other every few weeks, every few months. You're going to have a new tax put on you. How long can you continue with the present income that you have? How long will you be able to continue and still put clothes on the back, food on the table, gas in the gas tank to get to work, and still pay off your mortgage house payment?
I think someone emailed me today that they're trying to come up with a new flu tax, and I thought, well, what is that? I mean, I didn't have time to research it before the show, but I thought, what is a flu tax, and how? I mean, how do you determine who's going to be taxed on that? I mean, it's ridiculous the things that they're coming up with. But you're right, it's just any kind of way to get more and more of your money, it seems.
Well, it's all a part of getting you in debt. It's not just merely because the government needs it. They can keep printing into oblivion, but they want every human being into such horrible debt. You see, I explained this nearly a year and a half ago in my DVD series when they said to me, forced debt creation. They want to create debt every way possible, and if they can stranglehold you with taxes, if they can diminish the purchasing power of your dollar by making the price of the gasoline go up at the gas tank and the groceries go up at the grocery store, the more they do this, the more you have to go and try to borrow money from somewhere or go to the pawn shop and do anything you can to get some money. Debt. This is what they want the whole world into, and they aren't going to bring about a collapse of the currencies of the world until after they have gotten people into such massive debt that they completely control them and own them. And they're holding off as long as they can because of this debt.
So some of the things they're doing is confusing, because someone sent me something today that said that they were going to pass some bill in which people couldn't get payday loans. And we know payday loans really they're for people who obviously can't get money anywhere else. So they go and get these payday loans at very high interest rates. And so I'm really concerned if Congress knows that these people can't go to the bank and get loans, otherwise they would be, and the only option is to go to these payday loan places. Why would Congress close the only avenue some of these people have to get money to make it from payday to payday? Why would they do that?
Well, I'm not quite sure. That has never come up in any conversation that I had with them, and I really don't know. I know that debt of every kind, every sort, more the better, is something that is in the process of being created. Every person, every state, every city, every county. You're going to see more and more cities declare bankruptcy, as has been done already in California. You're going to see counties declare bankruptcy. You're going to see states eventually have major, major problems. They aren't going to be able to pay their retirement funds much longer. This is
Pritchard, Alabama, for anyone who has not heard of that, Pritchard, Alabama is a city in which we did a show on, and those people actually, Mr. Williams, this retirement thing has already been done before. Pritchard, Alabama, the retirees of that city woke up one day and the checks just were no longer in their mail. And they contacted the city and they said, where's our checks? And basically the city said, we're filing bankruptcy. We can't pay you. And I just recently spoke with some of the retirees in Pritchard, Alabama, and the outcome was those people literally ended up with 1/3 of what their retirement check should have been. And they were glad to get it by the time they finally were able to settle with the city because they were just that financially strapped. So is it possible that they can start tapping into your retirement account? Absolutely. And these were people who had paid 10% of their salaries into this retirement account for 20 years, and only to find out that some of them never even got a check. Some died before they ever end up getting a penny from the city, and the others that did finally get some of their money are now settling for 1/3 of what their check should be. So it's happening already.
Yes, and the people were in such dire circumstances until they were glad to take anything that was given to them.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's going to happen in cities and nations and states all across America. Please, our children are crying. We need food. We'll take a new currency. We'll take a new constitution. We'll take anything. Just give us some help. This is the situation that they want people in, so that they're actually on their knees begging. And that's when the New World Order will step in and say, we have a new currency. We have a new world order. We have all the answers. We'll bring this world out of the mess that it's in. It's inevitable, and it's not too far around the corner.
You know, Mr. Williams, the thing is, you're a minister. Are we talking like the 666, the mark of the beast? I mean, when we're talking about people will be to the point that they will, be begging, just to have money to buy things. Are we possibly looking at that, or is that not going to be connected?
You and I, Eben, you and I, Kheri, you and I, Kheri, are Christians. We have read the last chapter. We know that all of this was described in the Bible a long time ago. I never thought necessarily it would take place in my lifetime, but we're seeing it right before our eyes, the actual fulfillment of the Scriptures. God said this was going to happen when it would get to the place that you and I are just talking about tonight. And it looks as though that we are seeing Scriptures literally fulfilled before our eyes.
Yes.
We've read the last chapter.
That's exactly what it seems like, because if we're getting to a point where they're squeezing us from all ends, you can just squeeze a towel just so much, and then eventually you've wrung it pretty much dry. And that just sounds like what you're describing of, if they're going to continue to tax us and, basically there's no jobs and they're going to be, taking people's retirement accounts and bank accounts. It just seems like there is just not going to be any sources left for some people other than to just say, hey, I surrender. What do you want me to do?
Well, I'm glad you and I have read the last chapter, and may I encourage people with a number of things here. I would urge you, I've been a minister of the gospel for 55 years, and I would beg of you to make sure that your spiritual house is in order. Read the Word of God. Go to the book of Romans in particular. If you don't know that Jesus Christ is your Savior, please make that decision soon. You must have your house on a solid rock. It cannot be on sinking sand. And I beg of you, set things right spiritually first. Then when all of these things happen physically, you will be able to survive, because your house will be on a solid rock of Christ Jesus instead of on the sinking sand of this world. So if I could leave any closing message with you, and Kheri, I am going to have to stop just a little bit before the hour, because I have another show actually starting it in just a few minutes here on the hour. Okay. So I'll have to leave you just a little before the hour. But if I could encourage every person out there in your listening audience, and the ones who are listening to us tonight, please settle things with the Lord. Be sure where you stand spiritually. Then you'll be able to stand all the other things that are coming your way. But there's no way in this world you will be able to survive what's going to happen unless you have the spiritual strength that you need through the belief in God's Word and trust in Jesus Christ. So I would urge you, before you do any of the things that Kheri or I, either one, have suggested tonight, first go to the Bible and set that spiritual house in order and know where you stand with the Lord. Then you can make all these other preparations out of a heart of the Holy Spirit guiding you so that you don't make mistakes, Kheri.
Can we take one call before you get out of here, Mr. Williams?
Yes, please.
We're going to go to area code 281-855. Good evening. You're on center stage.
Hi, Kheri. It's Thelma.
Hi, Thelma. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Mr. Williams.
Good evening, and thank you so much for calling.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to make sure that I cleared something up. The payday loans are not going away. In the state of Texas, the Democrats blocked a bill that would help lower the interest rates for the low income.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they blocked the lowering of the interest rate.
Yeah, they blocked some consumer protections that one senator, Senator Corona, was trying to implement. He sits on the Business and Commerce Committee, and they really had a row out on the floor one day, and they succeeded in stopping it. So.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that. Thelma was the one that sent me that, so thank you so much, Thelma, for calling in and clearing it up, because I hadn't had the chance to actually do the research on it. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Williams?
No, I don't think so. Pretty much everything he's saying is kind of what we've been watching, so it's concerning, but as long as everybody gets their house in order, they'll be okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thelma. Well, Mr.
Thanks,
Williams,
Kheri.
Mr. Williams, thank you so much tonight for stopping by and giving us the warning signs. Can you recap them really quickly again, the warning signs that people can watch for to know that this financial collapse is about to happen?
Well, you're going to see more and more events similar to Cyprus, except they'll be a little different. They won't actually go into the bank accounts. Mm-hmm. David Stockman warned you that the present system is unsustainable. He says when it bursts, and it will, those were buzzwords. The buzzwords of our own vice president was a new financial institutions, updated global rules, level playing field, and you will see them attempt to implement this as time goes along in the very near future. In light of all of that, read that last chapter, which Kheri and I have read. That's the Bible. And know where you stand spiritually. Then you'll be able to stand when all this happens. I hope that you will go day after day to lindseywilliams.net. It's free of charge. Won't cost you one penny. Be sure and look at bulletins as I post them, and as the elite tell me that things are happening. Oh, please get my new DVD series. It just came out a week ago, entitled New Signs That the Elite Have Given Me. And please copy it and give it to every friend and neighbor you possibly can. Call our toll-free number is 1-888-799-6111. Or go on the web, if you wish, to prophecyclub.com. After the program tonight, you can do that, prophecyclub.com. And, Kheri, thank you so very much for allowing me the privilege of being on your show tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. You have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night. Y'all, that was Mr. Lindsey Williams. What can we say? I want you all to go out tonight, blow up his website, get that DVD titled New Signs the Elites Have Given Me. You all should get that DVD. Mr. Williams has given us everything we need to be prepared for the upcoming or the looming financial collapse. I'm calling it a financial Armageddon. You can go to his website, www.lindseywilliams.net, or his other website is prophecyclub.com. Or you can call him up at 888-799-6111. A reminder, y'all, the views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect that of Center Stage, the host, or our advertisers. Also, a reminder, if you'd like to advertise here on Center Stage, you like what we do, we'd love to have you. Give me a line, or drop me a line, rather, at centerstageradio@yahoo.com. That's centerstageradio@yahoo.com. And we'll work out something. Also, a reminder, May 3rd, that's this coming Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. We're going to be kicking off a new segment here on Center Stage called 24/7 Healthcare with Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez. That's the doctor that Lindsey Williams was just talking about, that he met and was under their care at the BioCare Hospital in Tijuana, Mexico. Yes, Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez will be with us for 2 hours as we kick off a new segment called 24/7 Healthcare with Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez. Get all your medical questions answered. Like Mr. Lindsey Williams just said, they're doing things down at BioCare in Tijuana, Mexico, that they're not doing at our hospitals here. So that might be something that you want to check out. You want to ask them a question from a holistic perspective on how to deal with a medical condition that you're maybe having problems with. Get on the phone lines Friday night. That will be May 3rd from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. And ask him whatever it is that you may need to have answered. Also, y'all, listen, I'd like to hear from y'all. What do you think of Center Stage? How are we doing around here? What kind of shows would you like to see us do? We are always open for suggestions. Drop me a line at centerstageradio@yahoo.com and let me know what you think of Center Stage. Also, follow me on Twitter. Center Stage is on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. Kheri Hines is also on Facebook. So follow me. I'd love to see what you guys chat about on your pages. Listen, we got to get out of here. We've had a great night. We learned a lot from Lindsey Williams. I know I did, y'all. I know what to do to get my house in order. He said that we needed to take our money out of our 401ks, our RAs, our retirement accounts, and invest them in other places. I suggest paying off your house. But he said you can also talk with a financial advisor and ask them what should you be doing. And I suggest that as well. Talk to someone who has some background in financial advising and ask them, what should you be doing? Listen, y'all, thank you to Mr. Lindsey Williams for being with us tonight. What a pleasure it is always when he stops by. We'd like to thank you, the audience, for listening. Tell a friend to listen to Center Stage. Like I said, we're here each and every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central, 9 to 11 Eastern. We're going to close out tonight, y'all, with some good music. I'm trying to decide what do I want to play. I think you know what I'm going to play tonight, y'all, as we leave. It's not over. Like Mr. Williams said, they may be planning this, but God has the final say. So we're going to go out tonight on, y'all, It's Not Over. Good night.